Hello viewers, I salute you from wherever you are watching from. An Igbo saying goes like this, Ekweko amagba. This is a very interesting revelation that all Nigerians need to listen to. This is the major root of the present insecurity in this country. Let's watch this video and we'll be back to do some analysis and tell you a story.
Idan ba gwamnati ta daure man wanda yake cikin daji ya ta'addanci ba Allah ubangiji ya tsine man Allah dauki rayuwa ta a wurin nan. Bahilla ce saniya aka san shi da ita sai noma. Saniya ba ta haifa bindiga AK 47. Bahilla ce bai da makera da zai kera bindiga AK 47. Gwamnati ke turowa har muka samu. Mu kuma wallahi dalilin da ya sa billahi lazi shekara na 7 ina makarantar allo, amma lokacin da na dawo na tsinci kaina a cikin wannan abun wallahi ina mamaki, kullum ina tunanin rayuwata saboda mahaifa na akalla a kasar dan banga da idan.
Now you need to know what this guy is saying. He is taking an oath. He's swearing that they don't know, the Fulanis, they don't know anything. It came to a point they were pushing weapons to them. He mentioned AK-47. Some of them were focused in their studies, everybody with their own kind of studies, their Islamic studies. Some of them, and it came to a point they started seeing weapons and they started getting trained. He's swearing that they don't know anything. And these weapons were coming from the government according to him. So you see where the water was beginning to contaminate. All of a sudden, the ones we saw, we know that were making use of sticks, started using guns, using it very well, killing a lot of people. Now, their cattle started leaving the grazing route and attacking our farms and getting ready to destroy us. And the latest is that they are planning to, according to some of them, take over this country. And remember, during the election, more of them the doors were open for them. They said, Fulani in Nigeria, Fulani everywhere, they are the same. That's what they said. So they opened the doors. To them, Nigeria is like the headquarters. And many of them entered. And they say it is easier to give the cup to the monkey to drink water. It remains collecting the cup. That is the hardest thing. So they continued with their usual earlier practice until people in government. And this was very noticeable. I don't know when it started, but it was very noticeable during Buhari's time. So we are beginning to know the root of our problems. Those times they move with sticks, they don't attack farms. But throughout Buhari's reign, and in these modern times, you heard of them intruding and ready to smash you. There are a lot of videos, them eating up farm produce, farm crops, eating them up without any fear. You've heard of the devastation caused by these people. Let me tell us a story, and we'll be out of here. When I was growing up in northern Nigeria, I remembered the Fulani herdsmen passing through our community with their cattle. They were peaceful, gentle people who guided their animals with nothing more than long sticks. The herdsmen would often stop by and we would laugh, chat, and share milk with them. Those moments felt pure, untainted by conflict or fear. It was a time of mutual respect between us, and the herdsmen were a familiar part of our rural life. Their journey through our villages was a peaceful sight. one that blended seamlessly with the daily rhythm of the land. I also recall reading a book called Burning Grass by Cyprian Ekwensi, an Igbo author. The book vividly painted the Fulani people's peaceful migration, depicting how they would move their cattle across the country, sticking to traditional routes and following customs that had been passed down through generations. The herders used simple sticks to guide their cattle and would cause no harm to farms or people. The Fulani in that story were seen as hardworking, peaceful people whose only goal was to care for their animals and pass on their way of life to the next generation. It was a touching portrayal of a nomadic lifestyle that seemed as old as the land itself. The book also provided deep insights into the Fulani culture. I learned how, over time, the older generation would pass on the knowledge of cattle herding to their children. This wasn't just about passing on a job or business. It was about handing down a tradition, a way of life. As the elders grew older and became too weak to travel with their herds, they would stay behind while their children took over. This generational transition was portrayed as something beautiful, an unbroken chain linking the past, present, and future. It made me admire the Fulani culture even more for how they valued family, responsibility, and tradition. But today, everything has changed, and it's heartbreaking to witness. The peaceful Fulani herdsmen of my childhood are no more. Now, these same herdsmen are often seen carrying automatic rifles, not just sticks. Their cattle no longer peacefully graze through our communities, but instead, the herders and their animals have become a dangerous force in many parts of Nigeria. What once was a harmless journey through the land has turned into a violent occupation. They no longer pass through with good intentions. Instead, they build settlements in forests and other secluded areas. These forests, which used to be peaceful retreats, have now become launch points for attacks, and many of these herders have begun using these areas as bases from which to strike at farmers and villages. The situation only worsened with the rise of Muhammadu Buhari as a civilian president. Under his administration, the violence carried out by Fulani herdsmen became more widespread and more organized. Reports started surfacing of security operatives apprehending criminals among these herders, only for them to be released shortly after. Even more disturbing was that these herders would often be giving back their weapons, allowing them to continue their violent activities. This troubling pattern made it clear that the violence wasn't random. It seemed to be allowed or even encouraged by the powers that be. Many people began to believe, as one Fulani man said in the video you saw, that the herders were being armed by Nigerian leaders, which only reinforced the belief that these attacks were part of a larger coordinated effort. Today, things have reached a frightening level. Fulani herdsmen from neighboring countries have crossed into Nigeria in large numbers, adding to the already tense situation. Armed with automatic rifles, many of them are not even Nigeria, but have come here with intentions that go beyond herding cattle. Some of them are now openly threatening to seize control of the entire regions. It is a terrifying thought. These foreign headers, some with no allegiance to Nigeria, coming into our land and trying to dominate it. The reality is that many of us, especially in the south of Nigeria, live in constant fear. We fear an invasion, we fear for our safety, and we fear for the future. The once peaceful forests and rural areas that provided us with a sense of calm and connection to nature have become battlegrounds. The killer Fulani headsmen have taken control of strategic positions, hiding in the bushes, setting up camps and launching attacks on farmers, villages, and anyone who stands in their way. For many of us, it feels like a slow creeping takeover that could eventually spread to every corner of the country. It's truly heartbreaking to see how everything has changed. The peaceful herdsmen I remember from my childhood, who traveled through our communities with nothing more than their cattle and a stick, are now a distant memory. In their place, we face a very different reality. The violence, the fear, and the destruction are unlike anything we ever could have imagined. What was once a harmonious relationship has turned into a nightmare, and it seems as though the very essence of Nigeria is being threatened. What happened to the peaceful Fulani headsmen? What happened to the tradition of family and respect? The sad truth is that everything has been shattered, and what remains is a country struggling to survive the devastating consequences of these changes. It's a painful story of how things are falling apart, and it's hard not to feel helpless as we watch this violence and fear spread across the nation. Today, Nigeria imports grain from outside because the farmers could not meet up as a result of killer Fulani headsmen attacks. It's a pity.